When you book a campsite, you picture crackling logs, clean air, and a galaxy of safe, simple stars. That's the brochure. The woods have another side, quiet rules and old debts, and when you break them, the forest notices. What follows are 5 true deep woods encounters. Names are changed, coordinates trimmed, but the sources are ranger shift logs, rescue call sheets, and the men and women who still won't set foot past the trailhead at night. If you're packing a tent after this, you'll add a second thought to the bag. Alder Fork, Idaho Panhandle, late September, the first cold fingers had started to press the creek flat, and the campground was down to 6 sites and a long, honest quiet. At 1:08 a.m., according to the ranger log, a single-note whistle drifted through the tamarack like a cheap recorder. It wasn't a bird call and it wasn't the wind, it was that playground pitch people use when they don't want to shout your name. 2 hikers in sight 4 whistled back without thinking, 3 quick replies the way you'd wave a car through an intersection. Their dog stood, hackles up, but didn't bark. The second whistle came from behind their tent, even though there was nothing but a drainage dip and hard timber 30 feet that way. The radio on the picnic table crackled open by itself and a voice with an unfamiliar cadence asked, "Are you awake?" They zipped the flap, grabbed their boots, and saw, in the beam of a headlamp, prints circling the fire ring, bare feet, toes splayed, heel marks blurred like they'd walked in 2 directions at once. The ranger who answered that call, a woman named Suarez, knew rule 1 by a different name: do not play back. She cut her headlights 100 yards out, killed the engine, and listened. The whistle came again, but the dog's growl told her where not to look. Suarez crouched, sleeve over mouth, a trick for the pressure that sometimes rolls through like an invisible storm, and the dog's hackles settled as if she'd just passed beneath a barbed wire and left the wrong air on the other side. She didn't answer the radio, didn't echo the call, and walked the 2 hikers to her truck with their dog between them, hand on the leash, not the collar. In the morning, when they went back for the tent, the prints were gone, but a neat little pile of river glass sat where the dog had slept. Mile marker 39 on Forest Road 816 is a bent post with a white scar, the kind you forget until the night decides to notice you. 3 reports, 5 years apart, agree on what happens at 2:17 a.m., the post turns to face whoever stopped. The first was a pair of trail techs hauling a seized chainsaw. The woods went pin-drop silent and their keys slid onto the pavement behind them. The second was a medic unit whose odometer added miles while idling, as if the road beneath them had already driven on. The third was me, back when I cleaned the visitor center at night and thought rules were stories. Jesse from Interpretation talked me into chasing a meteor shower. We took the forest road after closing, windows cracked for pine and cold. Halfway up, the world thinned. No bugs, no wind, and my hands knew to set the truck in park before my mind did. The post ahead had rotated, reflective stencil like a closed eyelid trying not to look too interested. My handheld, left on the floorboard, popped and carried my voice a breath above a whisper, "Are you awake?" Jessie said don't be cute and opened her door before I could catch her sleeve. Her boots wrote conflicting stories in the dust, prints meeting themselves like she was both leaving and returning. Far down the ridge, a chain hummed the way a dentist drills, a low, toothy warning that found my spine first. I said her name, made sure her lips moved, and told her to take my belt and walk backward with me until the bend. The post kept angling for our eyes, but we watched our boots, and after the curve the woods exhaled, bugs, wind, the forgiving mess of ordinary noise. We didn't talk until the overlook. Jessie cried a little, furious at nothing, and now she won't pass 38 after dark. If you think that's nerves, good, harness fear, it pays out better than bravery here. The third encounter is the one that made a veteran ranger fold his uniform and leave it on a porch at dawn. He called it the Green Cabin at Devil's Notch, though there's no cabin on any survey and Devil's Notch is just a crooked cut where the ridgeline slumps. On paper, he hiked out alone to verify a smoke report near dusk, routine, maybe a hiker running a wet log. The forest was all the right noises until it wasn't, then came a smell like lye and old coffee, and a window of color between the lodgepoles, too green to belong. He says the cabin's paint didn't take light so much as make it, a low glow that felt like pond water looks when headlights sweep it. Inside, someone washed a pot, an easy, domestic rhythm that nerves want to trust, and a woman's voice asked from the back room, "Are you awake?" He almost said yes, then noticed his reflection in the stovetop wasn't matching him. Still. He took one step toward the threshold and the reflection stayed. The pot kept a rhythm like rain on a tin roof, then slowed, then stopped between circles. The stove clock showed 9:17 even though it was full dark past 10, the second hand shivered but didn't advance. He said the sentence that has saved more rangers than maps, "I'm on duty." He did not answer the question. The woman's voice asked again, "Are you awake?" And the stovetop reflection blinked out of sequence, his lid sinking when his eyes were already shut. He backed into the doorway with his chin tucked as if a branch might sweep. The floor had the give of duff under the plank grain, soft where it should creak. The smell in there wasn't just lye. It was the iron tang a mop leaves after a bad night. He palmed the jam, felt paint that wasn't dry, green on his fingers even in the dark, and told his boots to heel. The door hummed once as if a chain were vibrating somewhere inside the wall. When he looked up again, the green was deeper, like pond weed layered on pond weed. He left without turning around. The next day he used a pocket knife to clean paint from the welt of his right boot and folded his uniform on his porch at dawn. The note he left on the shirt read, "Don't enter kitchens that clean themselves." He wouldn't say Devil's Notch out loud after that, not even to check a box. The only proof he ever mentioned was a flake of paint that stuck to his coffee mug, a color you can't buy at a hardware store. The fourth encounter is about cameras that remember what you owe. B. A bow hunter who prides himself on not scaring deer or people, hung 3 trail cams in a swampy finger of Allegheny where the map paints everything the same shade of green and lets you think that means safe. He set them on game trails over a seep, triangulated so he'd catch the bucks bottlenecking when the oaks dropped. He kept a ledger, dates, batteries, memory sizes. He left at dusk with his headlamp wrapped in red cellophane and a sandwich bag over his phone. The woods did the right sounds all the way to the truck. 2 weeks later he came back with fresh SD cards and the smug patience of a man who knows where the big one beds. He called me the next day, voice like gravel and breath like he'd run a long way inside himself. "You ever seen yourself in a place you weren't?" he asked. He sent the cards by courier, wouldn't hand them to a warden. On the first, we saw raccoons, a skinny black bear, a marten, the usual amateurs. At 1:08 a.m., thick fog walked between lens and seep like a person who didn't pick up their feet. At 2:17 a.m., a figure stood full-framed in BS Blaze orange ball cap, chin lowered, eyes closed like he'd fallen asleep standing. The shoulders were BS. The coat was BS. The boots left no prints in the mud. The face was one breath out of focus, as if the camera were trying, politely, not to stare. On the second camera, 20 yards away, the same man, again, if he were a sleepwalker, walked toward the lens and then past it without ever coming into perfect clarity. His hat was dry after 8 hours of mist. The third camera showed nothing but a pine's rough bark until the minute rolled over to 03. Then the frame went slate gray and something tapped the lens from the other side, 3 small clicks like stones. The EXIF data puts all 3 frames within 1 second of each other, not possible unless the cards were lying. Cross-checked his receipts, bank logins, and a speeding ticket. He was in Meadville at 2 o'clock paying for gas and coffee. The shop's CCTV shows him. The next week he went back to pull the cameras, and the tree that held the third had a neat circle of river glass at its base, each piece with one flat facet like an eye that never blinks. He doesn't post photos anymore. He keeps a dog now and whistles for it only in daylight. The fifth is a family story that turned a lake into a rumor you warn people about but can't prove. Boundary Waters, Labor Day weekend, 3 canoes, 2 families, 1 dog, a long day that builds the kind of sleep everyone thinks saves you. The father who told me this runs heavy equipment and speaks the way a man learns to speak when metal decides whether your fingers stay yours. He said the sky was a bowl punched with cold holes. The boys passed out after 2 granola bars and a ghost story traded down from an older cousin who never goes out anymore. At 3:03 a.m., he woke not the way sleep gives you back but the way you prick up if someone set a cup down in the kitchen and didn't belong in your house. No wind. No chop. No mosquitoes. He could hear a zipper 30 feet away scrape one tooth, stop, scrape again, stop. Then a voice from the shore said in a ranger's soft late-night cadence, "Hey little man, you awake?" He sat up with that instantaneous rage parents get when a stranger speaks to their child. He saw a headlamp bobbing between Jack Pine and Alder, the polite rhythm of someone who knows the place and doesn't want to spook anybody. He unzipped. The voice called again, "Are you awake?" Now more like it wanted the answer for itself. The beam never pointed at the tent. It swept the ground in arcs that kept widening like a search that wasn't for a person at all. He told his wife to stay put and took one step barefoot into the cold. The headlamp pivoted as if it could hear socks. He said, "You alone out there?" The beam stopped. The dog, usually a fool for attention, put its chin on the boy's sleeping bag and whined once, low. He did not call his son's name. He did not say yes. He said the way out loud to nobody, portage, point, distance, like a prayer that reminded the world it had maps. The headlamp slid sideways, light thinning like a breath on glass. Rocks clicked on rocks, small ones, 4 or 5 in a row as if an invisible hand were making a tiny cairn. He said, "We'll see you at the ranger station after sunrise," because that sentence is a door that closes. The beam cut out. The night took 1 second to return to being a night. In the morning, they found a line of flat stones leading from their fire pit to the landing, each the size of a loonie, each damp like they'd been just under the surface and lifted by someone who didn't splash. At the put-in, a seasonal wearing a clean uniform and 2 days of beard told him no rangers were on that lake after dark and no, that voice recording on the father's phone, "Are you awake?" Caught thin as a breath at the end, was not any cadence their office used. He plays it on speaker sometimes when people say the woods are nothing but weather and squirrels. The dog won't cross a dock now. The boys are teenagers and don't remember the lake fondly. The dad keeps his headlamp pointed low and doesn't camp on points anymore. Points look like invitations from above. You came for a checklist that would let you keep your reservation. I can't give you one. What I can give you are the thin lines people used and lived. Don't whistle back. Don't answer your name unless you can count the lips that said it. If the world shuts off like a switch, crouch and let it pass through you. If you must cross water to shake something, cross once, eyes on your feet, your reflection is not the proof you think it is. If a light asks a question, answer it with logistics and times, not yourself. Give it a plan, not your name. If a child-shaped voice asks to walk behind you, put it on your hip or don't walk at all. And if you meet a kitchen in the woods that smells like cleaning day, congratulate it, close the door, and go home. I've read too many logs and too many statements with redactions that hide nothing worth hiding. The pattern is simple and older than any uniform. Things that want to be noticed ask for what you'd offer without thinking, a whistle, a yes, a look, a little help. The price for a harmless moment out here is that the woods keep a copy. Maybe it's just a voice recording that doesn't belong to your phone. Maybe it's your reflection blinking before you do. Maybe it's a tidy stack of glass where a dog slept. It's enough.